Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and welcome to a Saturday night show. I'm looking forward to it tonight. I don't get to do many Saturday night shows. If you know the vibe, get your questions in, kick back, it's your show, but I have got some topics for you. We've been linked to Morten Hjulmand again. Interesting midfield target. We'll talk about that straight away. Also, Tonali's price has probably just gone up to 80 million because he scored a couple of goals in the FA Cup. Will INEOS survive at Manchester United after the week they've just had and taking into account everything else? Will Glazers kill this conversation? Will INEOS survive? We'll talk about that as well. Also, how important are managers in the modern game? United are going down the head coach role. Is that the way to go? And there was one other thing I wanted to talk about. Oh yeah, isn't the FA Cup shit? It really is shit, isn't it? I mean, I know sometimes you've got to be out of a relationship to understand how bad it is. I mean, we're not in the FA Cup. I wish we were in the FA Cup, but oh my God, I can't tell you how shit it is. It's dead. Why are we wasting a weekend on the FA Cup? It's rubbish. And I'm not saying that because we're not in it. I think being in it would sort of blind me to how shite it actually is. It's rubbish. It's absolute crap. It's a waste of a weekend. The FA Cup is dead. It's absolutely dead, but tell me I'm wrong. So lots to get into. Of course, it's an 8 o'clock show, so get your thoughts in as well. Also, just want to give a big shout out to Robert. Rebecca, his wife, has informed me that it's his 50th birthday a couple of weeks ago, I think. He went to the Manchester Derby. Big fan of the show. Hopefully be watching tonight, although realistically probably should be taking Rebecca out because she was the one who suggested the shout out. So big shout out to Robert. Happy birthday to you. Apparently you're a regular viewer of this community and channel. So happy birthday to Robert. Right, let's get into the show. How is it dead? Your brain is sunshine, says Armo. Look, right. The FA Cup, when I was growing up, just very quickly, before we talk about Hjulmand and everything else, we can do this on a Saturday night show. The FA Cup, when I was growing up, was the biggest game of the year. The FA Cup final. It used to start at midday, countdown, you'd follow the bus. The FA Cup was the big game. There was, like in 87, 88, 89, 90, the FA Cup winner was bigger than the league. It was weird. It's dead, mate. It's fucking dead. It died the day they didn't let us defend it in 2000. It died the day Wenger started playing his reserves. I knew this would happen. I watched Villa Newcastle today. Neither of them put their strongest team out. Neither of them really want to be in the tournament. And that's the biggest and oldest tournament. Mate, it's shit. It's shit. We're watching teams not really give a shit about it and pretending it's still good. Come on. It's like Only Fools and Horses at the end. It wasn't the same. It's crap. It's absolute crap. And people go, oh, the magic of the cup. Oh, the magic of the cup when people don't give a shit about it. You know, teams like Burnley are more focused on staying up. Teams like Villa and Newcastle are more focused on the Champions League or Europa League. It's rubbish. It's absolute shite. The only bad thing is that we should have took it seriously because we actually need it. But it's rubbish. It's rubbish. It's so bad. It's so bad. It's a waste of a weekend. This feels like an international break to me this weekend. That's how bad the FA Cup is. Evening, Mark. Hoping you're well. Happy Valentine's. Sending love to everyone in the community. Thank you to you for bringing us all together. Big shout out to the amazing community. That's a nice message from Mike and a £10 super chat. Thank you very much. Of course, it is Valentine's Day, so share the love. 2 years as a member. Thanks for the content, Mark. Glazers and INEOS out, says 95 Trace. And you're missing Inter versus Juve, says Snoopy. Oh, I'm not missing it. I was never going to bloody watch it in the first place. So you can't miss something you weren't going to watch. Anyway, look, we're United stand. A few things to get into topically before we start. Portuguese reports tonight are linking Manchester United to Morten Hjulmand, who is valued at 50 million euros. Sporting Lisbon captain, I believe, centre midfielder. I think he's going to be. I think he's 26, be 27 this year. Manchester United apparently in for him. What are your thoughts on this? Well, look, apart from the fact that he's got an Arsenal tattoo, which is, I think, is probably quite a big thing. You know what? It's amazing, isn't it? I was having this conversation with one of my daughters a couple of years ago. They wanted to get a piercing in their nose. And I was like, look, you're 18. It's up to you. Can't believe we've got an 18-year-old. You're 18. It's up to you. But I think you might regret that when you're older. Okay? It's amazing that Arsenal tattoo on player that Man United might sign is actually a big issue. I actually think it is. In fact, sod it. I've been down to the pub this afternoon. I've had a couple of pints. I'm speaking freely. That's what we do on a Saturday night. Saturday night show's a little bit different, so get your questions in. I personally think an Arsenal tattoo kills this deal. I do. I actually think that's end of story. In the modern game, well, in any game, imagine signing Roy Keane from Nottingham Forest and he's got a Liverpool tattoo. Like, I genuinely do think an Arsenal tattoo kills that deal. Who's with me? Right, you know what, actually, democracy time. Does the Arsenal tattoo put it off for you? Does the Arsenal tattoo kill a Hjulmand deal? Let me know. But look, we'll come back to that. 50 million euros for a 26-year-old who is actually a very decent player. We need 3 midfielders. We might only get 2. He might be an option. The only thing I would say about him is he's good. He's got lots of experience. I think he's Danish, isn't he? Played in the Champions League. Been very good at Sporting. Very good player. The issues with him are going to be this. 3 things. 1, 27 in the summer. United don't sign players over 26. 2, not played in the Premier League. Man United don't really want non-Premier League players. I don't think that's right, but it's true. And thirdly, probably more of an Amrim signing than the Man United signing. So I think those 3 things are probably unsurmountable. Flip side positives, very energetic, very physical, very good on the ball, very experienced, and a leader. So negatives and positives. I think the negatives will outweigh the positives. I think United won't go anywhere near him because of the fact that he's not played in the Premier League and he's going to be 27 this season. But the leadership, the ability on the ball, the tenacity, doesn't mean he could go and sign for somebody else and be very, very good. For me personally, though, I do think the Arsenal tattoo is an issue. And people might say that's ridiculous. He might, get it removed then. Get it removed. It doesn't cost that much, does it? So I think it probably would be an issue for me. 100%, what if he misses a sitter versus Arsenal? It's controversy waiting to happen, says Snoopy. 66% of you agree with me that the tattoo is a problem. I can't believe we're sat here on a show saying I'm not signing a player because he's got an Arsenal tattoo. But the flips, the positives and the negatives, I don't agree with why INEOS wouldn't sign him. Age, never played in the Premier League. I don't agree with those things, but the tattoo, I probably do. So I don't think we're going to do anything about it. I think we can probably file this story under bullshit, to be fair. But let's wait and see. Hope you're all well and had a good day. Mark on the United stand, says Daniel. It's been a whirlwind of a week at United, but just want to say thank you for all you and the sport. Thank you very much, pal. We're going to talk about that next, actually, the whirlwind. So look, next thing I want to talk about, and look, drive the show. It's 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock show, if you're new to the United stand, is predominantly driven by your topics. And I'll tell you a little secret. I tend to enjoy the 8 o'clocks a little bit more because the morning show, as much as it's good, it tends to be driven by news. The 8 o'clock tends to be driven by you, and I like freestyling, so drive the show. However, I think we have had a big week. I think Daniel's absolutely spot on. It's been I'll probably be a little bit more honest on it. I'm always honest, but I'll probably speak a little bit more freely on an 8 o'clock show, especially on a Saturday night when I've been down the pub in the afternoon watching the curling. I'm loving the Winter Olympics. I'm not even afraid to say it. Call me granddad, I don't care. But you know the video I did the other day about Sir Jim Ratcliffe's comments? I had to do it, but I cringe at it. I've said it to so many people privately. I hate that video. And I haven't deleted comments. And a lot of them are very political. A lot of them don't like. A lot of them agree with Sir Jim Ratcliffe. And I've left them up there because that's not what we're here for. I hated doing that video. I don't like politicising football. I don't. And as I said, I might agree with Sir Jim Ratcliffe. I might disagree with Sir Jim Ratcliffe. My politics are private. They're not for you. I should never impart them on you. And I hated that video. I absolutely hated it. But we had to do it because, in my opinion, Sir Jim Ratcliffe should never have done that. You are not the owner of Manchester United to impart your politics. That's my line. That's why I did the video. But the minute you do it, you automatically, because it's politics, are going to get praise and shit. And that's why I hated it, because it's not about my politics. It's not. We shouldn't be having that conversation. And to be honest with you, some people really struggle with this. I am not agreeing with your politics or his politics or anybody's politics. I am not going down that road. I actually in a way despise the people who did videos and articles slamming Sir Jim Ratcliffe because it didn't match. I basically, if I'm being honest, I've seen other journalists and content creators going in on Sir Jim Ratcliffe because they hold different political opinions. That was never my stance. I think they're as bad as him. I don't give a shit about your politics. I really don't. The reason we had to cover it is because we've covered Mason Greenwood's story, we've covered Marcus Rashford pissed, we've covered everything, you know, all those stories. And I despised it because it automatically will stir up the pot of people who have different opinions. And I don't like the journalists, United fans, who basically had a pop at Sir Jim Ratcliffe because they've got different political opinions. That's not what it was about. I just don't think he should have expressed his political opinions as an owner of Man United, because we're meant to be about inclusivity. And if you say, I love the colour red, you're offending, or you hate the colour blue. What about the people who like the colour blue? It can be that simplistic. But we're not going down that road. I just wanted to make that very clear. This week, I think the big question is, how much damage has it done to the INEOS ownership of Manchester United? Because I'll tell you for free. I mean, obviously, I speak to you on a daily basis, but I speak to journalists, agents, players on quite a regular occurrence. WhatsApp messages, little back and forths, ex-players. And I would never betray those confidences and say who I speak to, because that's the whole point of what we do. It helps us get information for morning shows and stuff like that. But there are definitely people out there that feel that this is terminal for INEOS. And this might be a bit heavy for a Saturday night. It might annoy you. It might excite you. This is not my opinion. There are people out there that really feel that this week, combined with the last 2 years, could be the beginning of the end of INEOS. One person even said to me, well, remember, the Glazers can get out of this relationship basically at the end of this year. They can do it. And if you're a Glazer and you're about money, they're not related to Sir Jim Ratcliffe and INEOS. They did a conversation about building a stadium, and it was meant to be mutually beneficial. But how beneficial has this been to the Glazers in the last 2 years? United have not in Europe this year. They're not in Europe. The stadium's not had the go-ahead. Sir Jim Ratcliffe has basically just gone and burnt the hands of the people that were going to help with the regeneration project. He's just made himself massively unpopular with a section of our fan base. If you're the Glazers, you might be looking at this relationship and going, we're just about money. We never do anything. I mean, the Glazers are scum. The Glazers are mercenaries. The Glazers have destroyed this football club, but they never do political statements. They never say anything that's going to annoy the fan base. So they might look at INEOS and go, yeah, you are really bad for our business. That's one angle of it. Then you've got the general fan base who probably didn't trust INEOS much before this week and now look at them and go, fuck off. So I think that my honest answer is, because a lot of people have said, what do you think the future is for United and INEOS? Look, today's newspapers are tomorrow's chip paper. They get forgotten very, very quickly. But there are people out there who believe this is terminal for INEOS. There are people out there that think Sir Jim Ratcliffe will look at this situation and go, this is nowhere near as easy as I thought it was going to be. I definitely think it's one to watch. My personal opinion on it is, and it's pure speculation, is that when you are in a position like Sir Jim Ratcliffe is, where basically you're banged to rights, you're banged to rights on the people that have fed up of you, you're banged to rights. Like, people have got every reason to be pissed off with you. When you're in that position, you can't ride the storm. If somebody doesn't like you, they're not just going to forget that in a week or two. You've got to start doing stuff to make people like you. Now, whether that's going to be writing the big checks or sacking Wilcox or whatever, maybe it will lead to stuff like that. I don't know. But I certainly think it's one to watch. I don't think we can sit here and say INEOS are done. But I think they're more done tonight than they were a week ago, and I think it's going to be very interesting. And look, you know, the pathway out would have to be success. I don't see success. The pathway out would have to be sustained qualification for the Champions League and competing against the best teams in the Premier League. I don't see that either. So I think that, as I say, where we were maybe a week ago, tonight, they're more vulnerable than they've ever been. And they have their own financial problems as well. So, look, it's definitely a watching brief, I think. Politics do not belong in any sport, no matter what, says one and only. But you know what? They are creeping in. I think politics are, sadly, it's Saturday night, so I can say this. I think politics are sadly creeping their way. So many of you made so many comments this week. Some of you backing Sir Jim, some of you dead against Sir Jim. A lot of you saying football's my escapism. This is the one place I come where I don't have to get involved in politics. And that's where I sit. That is exactly where I am. But it creeps into everything. You know, I used to really like Star Wars. People might laugh about it. I used to really like Star Wars. I think Star Wars has become political, woke. You know, it's about ticking whatever boxes they need to tick before they even write a script. I'm sorry. I actually watched. I couldn't watch it actually. Somebody there was a drama series about something I really, Battle of Hastings. There was a drama series on the BBC, and I really like that story. I love that story. I think it's fascinating. The battle at Stamford Bridge that then they fought at Battle of Hastings a couple of weeks later, and I read a write-up on it, and they were like, this is a battle that took place in 1066, and I'm looking at the people fighting, and it's physically impossible that they would have been from those countries that are fighting. And I'm like, yeah, this is what I mean. That's the wokeification of history now. Political. Everything's bloody political. And, you know, I think everything is going that route because everybody tells us how to think and how to be. And there is a backlash against that, and fair play. But I don't want football to be that. But it is. It is. They infiltrate everywhere. Hi, Mark. Sad to miss a weekend of football due to shit FA Cup. Pint or not, argument or not, your consistency with shows goes a long way, says Delwold. Yeah, but I love the Saturday night show. I love the Saturday night show. I mean, if you're not a regular of the United Stand, the Saturday night show has always been a little bit different. It used to be Friday night show before I did the Bundesliga, but I like the Saturday night show. I've normally had a couple of drinks, more relaxed. You know, we get the hardcore people here. It's like the international break. I love it. I was always taught never talk politics unless someone asks you to. I think as a football club, we need to be inclusive and not exclusive, says Mike JW. Well, I hope people just understand that. I read a lot of the comments on that video. I can't remember, I can't remember what video it was. I read the comments. And it would have been easy to delete them because there was some pretty horrible stuff said. But I hated doing the video, so you take the pain of that. I didn't want to do that video. It's probably the one video I didn't want to do. The Mason Greenwood video, when it came out about what he'd done, I was actually away. I think I was in Stratford. I had no problem doing that video. It was very easy to do. I'm from a legal background. It was very easy to do that. I was in a safe space, even though if you say one word wrong, you could get sued. I knew I was on a firm footing. I knew what I was saying. I hated that video the other day. I hated it. And that's not because I agree or disagree. I hate that sort of thing. It's not what we should be talking about, but it had to be discussed. Glazers put United as collateral in their IPL bid, says Sand. I hope not. I don't think they have. I hope not. JB says, I would get 3 players from Bournemouth and Anderson. Do you think Macclesfield will beat Brentford, says UTVS? If it's important to you, mate, I hope they do. Personally, I don't give a shit about the FA Cup. I think it's shite. Only if he covers it with a Mark G tattoo, says Jacob, in relation to Hjulmand's Arsenal tattoo. And Snoopy says, 100%, what if he misses? I've done that one. Thank you very much. Okay, well, look, just very, very quickly about the FA Cup. Tonali scored 2 goals tonight. And we had it on, like we had a Valentine's Day meal and evening meal. And when I was cooking, we had the football. I wanted to put the Olympics on, but we had the football on, and I saw Tonali's goals, and I was like, that's 80 million now. 80 million now. The funny thing is about Tonali is he scored 2 goals tonight. I don't think he's scored 2 goals all season. And I just thought, this is bloody typical. Literally probably the perfect replacement for Casemiro in relation to age, profile, experience, and goes and scores 2 goals, which will add 20 million onto his price tag. And he's not prolific anyway. I just saw the second goal go in and I thought that's a good goal, but I thought that's his price tag at 80 million, isn't it? I mean, that's not even what he's all about. He's not even all about goals, but yeah, I think look, he's a good player, but the last thing we want him to do is start scoring goals. That's not why I'd buy him, but it would just keep his bloody price tag going up. But God, it was so shite. It was really bad. It was a really bad game. Did you see JJ against City? I didn't. I've not really watched any football this weekend, Bonzi, if I'm being honest. JSF, welcome to the members club. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Thank you very much for getting your badge in. Mrs. Stone with a super chat says, isn't that almost everything nowadays? Political. Sports is the one place we come to escape that. Politics and entertainment should not mix. What did you see? I mean, talking about the Winter Olympics, did you see the skeleton Ukraine racer who basically, I mean, look, this is the United stand, but this is quite interesting. Like, so he's a Ukrainian competitor in the Winter Olympics, and on his helmet, he's got pictures of athletes and Olympians. I don't know. They're all people who could have competed or have competed for Ukraine who've died in the conflict with Russia. He got booted out because you're not allowed to take political statements in the Olympics. Now, that might seem quite harsh, but in a way, is that not what we're asking for? I thought it was very harsh, but in a way, no political... I mean, that's one way of dealing it, isn't it? You're not allowed any political statements, whether they're virtuous or not, in the Olympics. I mean, that's one way of getting it out, isn't it? And it's very harsh. He was gutted, and he was basically remembering the dead. No, you're not allowed to do that. Hi, Mark. Sad to miss a weekend if I've done that one. Okay, right. Look, one thing I did want to get your questions in. Bonzi, welcome to the members club. Thank you so much. There's a few things I wanted to go through tonight. Obviously, I want to be driven by you in the show anyway. But I got sent this question today, and I don't know really the origin of it. They'd said they'd watched the video, and they said, can you bring it into the 8 o'clock show? And basically, they were saying the death of managers isn't a bad thing. What are your thoughts on that? And that's basically the line I got. So I don't know where this is from. I don't know who it's to do with. Maybe some of you do. But apparently they're basically saying you don't need managers anymore. Football's moved on. Which is quite interesting if you watch the show this morning, because I'd be a massive hypocrite if I said I agree with that. So let's play devil's advocate. You don't need a manager anymore. You just need a head coach. Well, I mean, that's the world we live in at Manchester United, but I find it incredible that that's the world that people think we should win in. I mean, look, history is littered with people who come up with bright ideas and change things that are working to things that won't work, and then they'll revert back. I think that when you look at Pep Guardiola, he is supported. He has got a director of football. Mikel Arteta has got a director of football. But they obviously work in synergy, and the manager obviously has a lot of power. Same with Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool. Now, it might be different with Arne Slot. It's certainly different with Rosenior at Chelsea, and it's definitely different for the next manager at Manchester United. Whether that's better or not, no. No, I don't think it is. I think it's catastrophic when you've got a manager that's Erik ten Hag with a veto, and he says, get rid of David De Gea for free and sign me an Arne for £50 million. That's an example of where it can go bad. But the flip side of that coin is, if you've got a director of football like Jason Wilcox, who says, let's give the job to Ruben Amorim and let's play a 3-4-3 and let's spend a couple of $100 million on it, and then halfway through a season says, we've fallen out, let's sack him and go back to a back four, that's not very good either. So it's a bit like the wage argument. I know some of you get a box of tissues and lube as soon as you hear that the wage bill's going down. To be honest, it pisses me off. I don't mind if Man United have got the biggest wage bill in the world, as long as we're paying the wage. I mean, look, let me break this down, right? If Man United were paying the biggest wage bill in the world, we'd probably be winning the league if we had competent people. If somebody says to me, Man United have got the biggest wage bill in the world, I would assume that's because we're paying big wages to the best players in the world. The problem was we had a big wage bill and we were paying shit. We were paying it to shit. So it's the same thing with me with a manager. I would rather have a manager with control, who is one of the best managers in the world, than a manager with very little control and a director of football who doesn't know what they're doing. And that's the issue. It's always going to be about, if you've got the biggest wage bill in the world, have you got the best players in the world, or are you paying stupid wages to shit? If you've got the best manager in the world who's got the power, are they the best manager in the world? Or if you've got the best director of football in the world and a head coach with very little say, at least you've got the best director of football in the world. And that's the thing. I don't think it's a definitive answer. Personally, I would rather have a manager with control, who is the best manager. But it doesn't actually matter to me if I've got a head coach, if I've got the best director of football in the world. And that's where we go wrong. We're reducing the wage bill on a legacy of wasting money on crap players. That to me is wrong. We're reducing the wage bill because the club's in debt and Sir Jim Ratcliffe is trying to save money. We shouldn't be reducing the wage bill because we've spent big on crap players. We should be spending on good players. We shouldn't have a head coach who doesn't have any power with Jason Wilcox as director of football. I'd rather have a manager with power over Jason Wilcox. But if we had a really good director of football, I don't really mind if the manager doesn't have power. And that's the thing. Like, it's the absolutism of what we're doing. Let's reduce the wage bill. Let's have a head coach with a director of football. Well, that's all. Why? Why are we reducing the wage bill then? That's going to lead to less quality players. Why are we not giving the manager any power and giving it to the director of football when it's Jason Wilcox? And that, to me, is the answer to the question. So, do we need managers anymore? Well, it very much depends on the setup that you've got. I would take Luis Enrique or Carlo Ancelotti over this system that we've got at Manchester United. However, I might be happy with a De Zerbi or a Carrick if my director of football is the best, is the dog's bollocks, the best in the world. So it just depends. And it comes back to best in class, doesn't it? Best in class. Best in class players, I don't mind paying them good wages if they're best in class. Best in class director of football with a head coach, I don't mind if I've got the best in class director of football. Best in class manager, don't have a director in football with a veto. So to me, that's what it's all about. It depends. You can't be absolute on your setup unless you've got the best people for it. At this moment, is Sesko way better than Ahmad? What? JB? What are you talking about? Why are you comparing an up-and-coming striker to a winger? I mean, look, honestly, if we're talking about preference, I prefer De Ligt to Delo. I prefer Martinez to Heaven. I prefer Bruno to Mount. Like, no, that doesn't work, does it? I prefer Bruno to Shaw. So you can prefer players in positions. I prefer Ahmad to Sesko. I think Ahmad is our most exciting player at times. So, but it's not an either or, is it? Mark, what about Deschamps? Very good CV. Oh no, I don't want the water carrier. That would be disrespectful to Cantona. No, I don't want Deschamps at Manchester United. God no. No, I mean, look, nothing against Deschamps. He might be great company, but I've never, ever since Cantona called him a water carrier, I've never seen a more uncharismatic person in football than Deschamps. And I blame Cantona for that. But no, I don't want Deschamps anywhere near Man United. I'm Danish. Hjulmand has leadership but no ability, says Lefer. I can't see it happening, mate. I can't. I know it's a bit of a topical story tonight, but I can't see that happening. I can't see it at all. I feel like it was an Amrim signing, the Arsenal tattoo. The age, 27 this year. I never played in the Premier League. Unfortunately, we're very predictable now under INEOS. They've almost got filters. You know, when you're doing like your football manager and you filter people by league and age and everything like that. United have got preloaded filters. Premier League experience, under 26. Hjulmand's out. Even after spending millions, Liverpool is missing players. Szoboszlai playing right back today. If Wilcox thinks we can manage with this squad with Champions League, he's having a laugh, says Mrs. Stone. Well, it's a problem United won't solve. In my opinion, we won't solve this problem. I think we will get Champions League football. However, they'll be dining out on that for 6 months. We'll get Champions League football and they'll think they've won the treble. They will. They'll be like, they're going to get all giddy. They're going to... I know what's going to happen. We'll get Champions League football and they'll think we've made it. They'll think we're fine. They'll think, oh, we've proved everybody wrong. And we don't need much. We don't really need much at all. We just need to replace Casemiro. They'll exactly... You know it as well as I do. We'll get Champions League football. They'll be patting each other on the back. They'll be going, we're back, we've done it. Steve Holland, Carrick, Jonathan Woodgate, you've got your job. We don't need anybody else other than a Casemiro replacement. We're back. And next season, we'll go into the season and they'll go, what the hell's going on here? How are we losing at home to Brentford? You know, it'll be like, yeah, because we played on Wednesday night away to bloody Juventus and we've got the same bloody squad on a Saturday. We're not ready for this. And that's what'll happen. And you all know it. And I know it. But they're too bloody stupid. They don't realise that we haven't even got a first team and we need another 6 for the bench. Like, we're so not prepared. You look at what happened against West Ham. Let's be honest, in the absence of evidence, we played on Saturday, we put a lot into it, and we beat Spurs. And then on Tuesday, we had nothing. Because we're so used to having one game a week and finishing training at 1 o'clock and getting down the golf club or whatever. They're not prepared for this. And the club won't be. I mean, look, as I say, if I'm in charge, we're getting a left back, a right back, 3 midfielders, a left winger, a backup goalkeeper and a striker. And maybe a centre-back for the bench as well. They're going to get a midfielder, maybe another midfielder and a winger and go, we're having a great summer. They're not going to do it. They're not going to do it. Sorry, I'm just going to get rid of this idiot in the chat. You're not welcome on a Saturday night, Marvel. Fuck off. We give Cunha, Bruno Mbermo, Sesko a game, says Marv. Don't know what that means. Follow-up, is Sesko good enough to bench Ahmad now, says JB. Mate, I don't know what you're sipping tonight, but you're normally better than this. Why would Sesko bench a right winger? Think about what you're asking. You're killing the vibe. Number one will buy Mount, though. They will have to loan him to make him appealing, says Lil Smoke. No one will buy Mount. No, you're absolutely right. We're out of everything sharpish this year. Unfortunately, we won't have the squad next season. Confidence will go through the floor. Sorry, I'd love to be more positive, but tough time if Champions League, says Oi. I think in the short term, the positive... Malps, how you doing, mate? He says this squad won't get far in the Champions League this season. Look, I think that there's a longer-term conversation and there's a shorter-term conversation. I think the longer-term conversation is that we are not... Well, look, I'd love to get proved wrong, but the longer-term conversation is that when you've got clowns running the circus, you're going to end up with a custard pie in your face. The short-term solution is that I think we've got a great chance of getting into the Champions League. And I think that short-term happiness might mask longer-term problems. The old plaster over paper in the cracks. There is no evidence to suggest that we're going to do what needs to be done in the summer. And that's regardless of who the manager is. So it's the same old conversation all the time, but we are not prepared for next season to play in the Champions League and at weekend either. I mean, look, even looking at the team at the moment, right? Le Mans, fine. He can play 2 games a week. He's a goalkeeper. Martinez, I hope he's going to be fine. He is coming back from some major injuries, but he probably will be okay. Harry Maguire, forget it. He's not going to be able to do it. Luke Shaw, forget it. Won't be able to do it. Delo, not consistent even as a player. So even if he can do it physically, he's not good enough. Delit, not even fit. Yoro, Heaven, going to get better but need game time. Into the midfield, Casemiro's gone. Mainu should be able to play 2 games a week. Same with Bruno. Okay, but where's the backup to those 2 players? Casemiro's gone. We're very light in the midfield. Ahmad, Mbermo, Cunha, Sesko should be able to do 2 games a week. Probably our strongest area of the pitch. So, but there's not a lot of players there, are there? There's not a lot of players there. Who's managing these players, by the way? So there's a lot of if, buts and maybes for next season. And I think United at the moment are just trying to cover it all up with this season. But as we know in football, when we used to win the league with Sir Alex, the minute you've won it, you're preparing for the next year. Football doesn't end at the end of this season when we get Champions League football. And Champions League football, because you finished 4th or 5th, I mean, that's just a modern phenomenon of success. When I was growing up watching United, finishing 4th was a disaster. Oh, you're in the Champions League. Oh, give us a shit. We've just finished 4th. So 4th and 5th as success. It has to be a pathway to bigger success. But I think that will be the success. They'll go, oh, God, we've done that. And then next season, God knows what happens. God knows what happens. I don't know. Look, I would love to be wrong. And I'll be here putting my hand up saying, wow, this is great. If we go and buy between 6 and 10 players and we build a squad, I'll be there going, you know what? I reckon we might get top 5. But they've got to want to go and do it. Hi, Mark. Where in Australia are you visiting? I'm not visiting Australia. It was a coin of phrase for a joke on Driving with Goldbridge. I mean, I do want to visit. I do want to go to Japan. I do want to go to Australia, but it's not in my diary at the moment. If we get Champions League, but taking each game as it comes, unless they invest in a squad, next season will be a disaster. We need a squad, says Mike JW. Danny just says Baleba disaster class. I presume this is to do with the FA Cup. I mean, look, mate, you deserve a bravery award for watching it in the first place, but Liverpool are 1-0 up in that game at half-time, and Baleba is playing in that game as well. So I don't know whether he's playing well or not. Sesko up front, Mbermo and Ahmad on the wings. Simple, says Snoopy. And Mr. Saunders says, Mark, spot on about Star Wars. Same reason politics is entering sport is the woke parts with their agendas, says Saunders. And hi, Mark, what about why are you against... Oh, here we go. Ryle says, why are you against Deschamps? He has the track record, he's managed big personalities, and he knows how to win. Do you agree? No, I don't agree. I don't like Deschamps. I don't want him anywhere near the club. I find him very boring, very uncharismatic, and I prefer Cantona, obviously. So no, I don't want Deschamps anywhere near Manchester United, to be honest with you. I've watched Chelsea versus Wolves due to being out with friends last night. It was so boring. I actually socialised, says Steve. Baleba just looks uninterested this season. Shouldn't be coming anywhere near Man United then. Shouldn't be coming anywhere near United. We said it under every manager since Sir Alex. We will still have a rebuild and some fans need to accept it, says Louise O'Donoghue. Hope you're doing well. Do we think that Toby Collier and Dan Gore are going to be given a chance? Personally, I think Collier looked better than Agate. If you want the honest answer, I think I had high hopes about both players, but it feels to me like the time has gone, you know? It feels like that ship has sailed. Mark, if you were mega rich, would you buy a club? Says the KFC. This sounds incredible. It sounds incredible to me, even now. But I'm just trying to remember the story because it was a couple of years ago. I did have the opportunity to invest in a non-league club a couple of years ago. And I did think about it. And my theory was that if I was going to do it, we do it in a way that involves the community. And they weren't really up to speed with what I was thinking about doing. And I wasn't going to be a majority shareholder. So I just said, well, no, it's never going to work. I'm not very good at working in organisations where I'm not going to get listened to. And it's probably the best thing because if I was a billionaire, I'd buy Man United and I'd be all in on it. But I don't think I'm interested in buying anything else. And I'll never buy Man United because I'll never have the money. Let's not forget Manu is a little injury prone too, says Mrs. Stone. INEOS pinning hopes on the academy so they won't need to spend too much, says Carrick in. And thoughts on the Olympics condom shortage, Mark? I don't know anything about this, Mez, and I'm not taking any responsibility because I'm not in Italy. Thank you very much. We will sign three midfield. Sorry, we will sign 3 in the summer, or 4 if Bruno does 1. 2 midfielders and a winger or a left back, says Fraser. And that's terrifying. Under 5 signings this summer is terrifying. But look, I'll say this to you, and I hope I'm really, really wrong. And I've been right twice now. In the next 18 months, we'll be back in a situation where we were last month, where it's like, get rid of the board, manager's been sacked. I can see it. I can see it clearly. Mbomo is a right winger too. He played there 80% of his games at Brighton as a right winger and he was excellent, says Marv. God knows what we were smoking while signing Mount. You would think that signing an injury-prone player would at least come with a cheap contract. Absolutely mugged off, says Savage. Yeah, I mean, look. I don't even know how to spin a positive with Mason Mount. I don't know what to say other than he comes across as quite a nice lad. I don't know what to say. And actually, when he's been fit, he's been quite good this season. But what is it, 5 or 6 or 7 injuries this season, on top of another 5 or 6 the season before that? 250 grand a week, 55 million pounds for a player with 1 year left on his contract. I mean, we've done some bad deals at United over the last decade, but that one's horrific. And the sad thing is, he'd actually had the injury that is causing him problems at Chelsea before we bought him. So not only did we give Chelsea £55 million with a year left on his contract, not only did we give Mason Mount 250 grand a week, we also missed his issue in the medical. Or, even worse, we knew about the issue and thought it would be okay. Absolutely shockingly shit signing, if we're being honest. Any hopes on Amas coming back and playing at left back, says Mrs. Stone? He's got a chance. I think under Amorim, probably not next season, but under the new regime, he might get to go on the tour with it being a World Cup year. If he did well, he might force himself in. I think one thing that we've struggled with this season is that we've played less games than we have in 100 years. I don't think we've played this amount of games since like 1913, which is 110 years ago. So next season, I mean, look, we've basically played Premier League games because we got knocked out of the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup in the first game we played. Next season, if you say we get through a couple of rounds of the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup, that's another 4 games. Then you've got guaranteed at least 10 games in the Champions League. You're going from 40 games to 52. And if you do well in those cups, you could be pushing 56, 57. So a lot more games. Now that means if you're Harry Amas, you might pick up a few starts across the season because of the volume of games. So being a younger player at United this season's shit. Look at Yoro and Heaven now. They're not getting any bloody time at all. So I think next season there might be more opportunities, yeah. Dial says, please Mark, jinx how to pick up girls. I don't know how to do that. To be fair, didn't we know and speak of this before the Europa League finals to Stretford Ender? N? I need more than that. Abanks says, how do you play Manu with a new 8 and 6? And I know what rotation is and we have Champions League football. But what if Cobby plays well and the new 8 plays well the game after? I believe Tonali and Fernandez are the choices. So I think what you're basically saying is, and look, there's nothing wrong with what you're saying. A lot of people say this, like, why buy a player that might bench Manu? But the way I look at it is what if Manu breaks his leg and he's out for 4 months? He ain't playing anyway. So I would rather have 6 midfielders competing with each other than 3 starters and then 3 players that aren't very good. So to answer your question, Abanks, if Mainu, Bruno and Casemiro are our starting midfield at the moment, and Casemiro is going to leave, I would be very happy to sign Tonali, Tyler Adams and Anderson. And I'd have Tonali starting and Anderson competing with Mainu and Adams competing with Tonali. And I wouldn't lose a blink of sleep based on who starts the game on form, because you need competition for places. Because one of those players gets injured and you've got nothing. Chido Obi needs to go on loan to a big team, says Mrs. Stone. I don't understand it. I don't understand it. This time last year, people wanted him to start ahead of Rasmus, and he was on the bench, and he was coming off the bench. This season, he's not been anywhere near the team. And I'm like, that's a whole waste of a year. Like, he should have been on loan this year. There's been no... You know, you're knocking on the door of the first team a year ago. This year, not been used by Carrick or Amorim. So, he should have been out on loan. Completely agree. Yeah, completely agree. Happy Valentine's Day, Mark. Don't buy too many roses, says the Mose one. And Dung says, Baleba is so bad in the match with Liverpool. Stay away from him. No intensity, no desire to play at all. I don't know why Man United are pushing it. And... yeah, I don't know why. Look, I think United will sign Baleba, right? And I think this will happen. We'll sign him. He'll flick the switch. And for the first half a season, he'll be like really good. And everyone will go, oh, I told you. Everyone was saying we shouldn't buy him because he was crap at Brighton, but he was just waiting for United, right? He'd do really well for us for 6 months. And then because he's a light switch player and he's proved it, after about 6 months, he'll flick it off and be shit. Because he's already exposed himself as a personality that can switch it on and off. And if you are somebody that can switch it on and off, fuck off. I wasn't brought up on that. You know, we had players over the years that every single game turn up. They might not have the best game, but they turn up. I don't want a light switch player. Ahmad is irking me, and Sesko doesn't get enough credit, says JB. I sort of picked up on that. The fact that you were comparing the two. Quick one here, says Iam. Is Baleba intentionally playing like that? Because I'm confused. He is not that bad. He might be good, but not that bad. He is alarming. But that's my point, mate. That there's no win here. I've heard some people saying, well, I'd still sign him because he's playing badly on purpose to get his price down to come to Manchester United. And my answer to that is, why would that make you happy? He's playing badly on purpose to get a move to Manchester United. So in 3 years' time, when Real Madrid come along, and he decides to play badly for Man United to get a move to Real Madrid. See what I'm saying? I don't like that. I'd rather he was playing well for Brighton, proving he's a good player, and we have to pay the price. I don't want a player that's downing tools because he wants to come to Manchester United. Now, he, in his immature mind, might think he's doing a good thing. But for me, I'm like, I don't want a player that can down tools. That is exactly what I don't want. And he might be doing it because he thinks it makes it easier for Man United to sign him. But if you can down tools, you can down tools. I don't want players who can down tools. So it's as simple as that. I don't think it's a good. I don't think he's necessarily doing that anyway. But it's not a good thing to be able to down tools because they might do that in a red shirt, you know. Tonali, an absolute game changer, says Daniel Thompson, and midfield general. We have to go all out for him. They talk about best in class, the abhorrent ownership. Time to show it. Very difficult, and I don't trust them to do it, but we need both Anderson and Tonali. Well, as per my video last night, exactly agree with you. Liked how you defended Bruno in the Bible video, says JJ. Yeah, if you haven't seen that, it was basically Declan Rice or Bruno Fernandes. And I'm like, look, I have criticised Bruno over the years because he can be quite frustrating, especially when he's playing in midfield. But Bruno Fernandes every day of the week over Declan Rice. And Declan Rice would be very welcome at Manchester United, but Bruno Fernandes every day of the week over Declan Rice. Every day of the week. And that's not even red-tinted glasses. You put Bruno in an Arsenal shirt, they'll win the league. You put Bruno in a Liverpool shirt, he'll deliver. You put Bruno in a Chelsea shirt, he'll deliver. Like, he's frustrating at times, but he is, like, he delivers. He does deliver. Sorry, just to give both sides here. Winston says, the idiot that just says Baleba is bad should be banned from social media. You and your sycophants have an agenda with Baleba. Just shut up, hypocrites. I mean, look, you know, absolutely entitled to your opinion. Someone might agree with it, but unfortunately for you, mate, it's not agenda, it's fact. He's been consistently shit this season, and that is evidenced not by me, by his own manager, who consistently subs him after an hour of a game, subbed him after 20 minutes of a game the other night. If he was playing well, and he's as good as he thinks he is, you don't get subbed after an hour consistently. He's been shit this season. Facts. JB's just gifted 5 memberships. You're a legend, mate. Thank you very much. Do you think Ahmad could play at 10 when Bruno goes? Says Mrs. Stone. I worry about Ahmad. I do worry about Ahmad. I sense there is this dislike for him in the fan base, and I think it's dangerous. I think we've had so... I did worry about this. Like, I did worry about this, and I'll explain it. Like, you know, every time United win, I'm happy. When we beat Brentford that time and we were shit and McTominay scored 2 goals and everyone said it was embarrassing, I was happy. Because Man United winning is not something we can take for granted in recent years, and there's nothing that should be more fundamental than Man United winning and making you happy. But I think we've been so bad for so long. We've got such toxic owners. We've had some right toxic players that I think that it was always a fear for me that this would become the norm, that we become adjusted to this. And I almost sense like there's no reason to dislike a player at the moment, like Ahmad, but there is people in our fan base that are. And I don't know whether it's Player FC legacy or the Glazer toxicity or INEOS or whatever, but I do feel like there's a bit of a movement against Ahmad for absolutely no reason. For no reason. He gives off no vibes of being a player that you would dislike, but there is. I see it. There is a group in our fan base that just don't like him, and it's dangerous. It's dangerous because there's just no reason for it. And who will be next? I mean, Dorgu was getting so much shit in his first 8 months at the club as a 20-year-old. It's hard. It's hard. In no way, shape or form am I blaming the fans, but there is this like accustomed drive for negativity around players that certain sections of our fan base just feel like they have to chase. And I think that, look, Luke Shaw's been here 12 years. I've had enough of him. Delo's been here for nearly 8. I've had enough of him. Maguire's been here for a long time. I wouldn't give him a new contract. There's a pool of evidence with them. But beyond them, there's not really a player I've got a problem with. I mean, look, they're not all going to end up being good enough, but they've all got different reasons for patience. I think Ahmad could be a very important player for Man United. And I think he's approaching that sort of line where he's going to be Ashley Young or he's going to be Andy Cole in relation to consistent top quality performers. Ahmad could end up being the player that's inconsistent, but on his day is really good, or he could end up being the player that delivers consistently. I lean towards the consistency, so I think he could play as a 10. But there seems to be a movement against Ahmad at the moment, and I hope he can ride through that, because I'd hate him to go into his shell because of the criticism. Free Immortal, thank you very much for gifting 5 memberships. You're a legend. And T-Making says, off topic, but I think Bruno needs to leave to get the best out of Cunha. Keep him if the plan is to challenge for the league next 2 years, but if plan is to still be in a project phase, then I'd sell him and build the team. Thoughts? I like Cunha. I'm a big fan of Cunha, but I don't think he'll ever deliver the way that Bruno does. I don't think anyone will, but I think they're very different players. Solid Blake has gifted a membership. You're a legend, mate. Thank you very much for that. so much. Well, look, I've thoroughly enjoyed the Saturday night show with you, as always. Just a little bit of a heads up tomorrow. Normally, I do the 10 o'clock show every morning on the United Stand, so please do subscribe. But tomorrow, in the consistency, or should I say inconsistency, of Seb's football kickoff times, we've been from 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Sunday to 9 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. Normally, it used to be 11 o'clock every week. So it's a 9 o'clock kickoff tomorrow. So I won't be here for the 10 o'clock, but I will be doing it at 11. So I'll be about an hour late, maybe even quarter to 11, depending on what time we get back. But it won't be at 10 o'clock tomorrow because he's playing at 9. It's not the final tomorrow. They won the semi-final last week. This is just a normal league game tomorrow. They'll switch off. They're a cup team. They won't turn up tomorrow. They'll be like, it's not the final. But yeah, I'll be a little bit late. But it's not the final tomorrow. Look, thank everybody. I presume some of you are watching this as a not live because you're off doing Valentine's stuff or doing Valentine's things. But thank you everybody who's tuned in live. Thank you everybody who's not watching and not watching it live. And I shall speak to you all tomorrow. Take care. People forget how good Ahmad was last season before his injury, says Navi. I still think he's good. I think he's been good this season. I really do think Ahmad's been good this season. Yes, we need more goals and we need more assists, but I still think he's had a good season. I do. Take care, everyone. Stay safe. Love the Saturday night shows. Thank you, everybody, for getting involved. I'll speak to you on the next one.